I'm Dr. Ray Self with International College of Ministry. Today's lesson is called Dealing with Controlling People. You know, I don't believe there's anyone alive who has not had to deal with a controlling person. I believe every family tends to have some people in there that are controlling. You know, perhaps it may be one of the most frustrating things that we have to do in life is to deal with controlling people. How do you spot a controlling person? I've always said, interestingly enough, that you can go to any family function or family dinner or Thanksgiving get-together. Usually the controller is the person who's wound up the most tight. What is a controlling person? What motivates them, and what should our response be? I know when I say controlling people, immediately people just go, yeah, oh yeah, that's my Aunt Sue, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my cousin, that's a guy at church. We all know this, but generally what happens with a controlling person, it is an individual who feels compelled, and this can be on a conscious or subconscious level, compelled to manipulate, force, or somehow, I guess the word would be guilt, shame, or use various weapons to affect the behavior of other people. The weapons could be guilt, it could be shame. If you don't do what I want, I'll never speak to you. If you don't do like I ask you to do, I will always be ashamed of you. There's weapons. The weapons can be aggressive, as for instance the person who threatens physical violence. If you don't do what they want, the weapons could be passive aggressive. For instance, someone who says they don't say anything, but they just don't speak to you for a long period of time if you don't do what they want. Generally, things to understand is when you're dealing with a controlling person, what you're dealing with is a person who is living an external life. Well, what I mean is an externally focused person is a person who spends their life, or most of their time, focused on other people, focused on what other people are doing wrong, what other people should be doing, what other people ought to be doing. And by this external focus, they are actually avoiding what's going on internally in them. By focusing out here, a person can avoid what's going on in here. To the controlling person, it's almost like a drug. It helps them avoid their pain, avoid having to look within their own heart. It's a way of escape. Now, they may be aware they're doing this. I believe most people with controlling issues are unaware that this is what they're doing. One of the problems with the controller is that the controller tends to have a sense of self-righteousness. It may go something like this. Look, I'm telling you the truth. I am telling you the truth. This is what you need to do. This is what is right. I'm right here. I know what I'm talking about. You need to do this. You ought to do this. You should do this. And so the thinking of the controller is, look, I'm right. I'm so right. I'm so correct in what I'm saying. Therefore, obviously, what I'm doing is a very good thing. I'm just trying to get other people to understand what is right. I'm trying to get other people to understand what I think they should do, because obviously what I'm thinking is the best way. What I'm thinking is correct. Therefore, people should do it. Now, notice in what I'm saying here, I'm using certain words deliberately. The words should, ought, need actually tend to be very controlling words. I don't believe anybody really likes that being told what you should do, what you ought to do, what you need to do. I was at a meeting some years ago, and a lady spoke up and said, you know, I pray that God would take those three words out of the dictionary, ought, should, and need, because they are controlling words. You know, it's much better when we're trying to help another person, and as we've taught before, our goal is not to fix another person, but our goal is to serve. As Christians, we're here to serve and help another person. It's much better to say something like, This is what I would do. This is what I think. This is what I believe. And when you approach it that way, it's not so much an attack. There's no pressure being put on the other person. You're simply sharing your beliefs. You're sharing what you think is true, and you're giving the person you're talking to the freedom to choose. The freedom. They're not being forced. They're not being coerced. They're not being pressured. They literally have the freedom now because all you said is, this is what I believe. And now that person that you're talking to or ministering to, they have the freedom to choose. It takes pressure off of them, and also it's very effective in counseling. One of the oldest tools that counselors use is they use the I word. This is what I believe. This is what I would do. This is what I think. The moment you get into that, this is what you should do. This is what you ought to do. This is what you need to do. I promise you, if you'll look at most people you're talking to, you'll see them immediately when they hear the words you should or you ought, it puts them in a defensive posture. Typically that you'll see the arms crossed, the legs crossed, leaning back a little bit in the defensive posture. Because when you say you should, you ought, you need, it feels like an attack. Okay? So controllers, to me, they need help. Now, we got to be careful here. Something I want to point out is if you're not careful when you're around a controlling person, you will find yourself, because of that spirit that's operating within them, you'll find yourself trying to control the controller. You'll find yourself trying to fix the controller. Let me get it straight. You cannot control the controller. Okay? Now, you can tell them what you believe. You can tell them what you think is the truth. That's fine. You speak the truth. The Bible says we should speak the truth in love. But be careful around controlling people, because you will start you can easily fall into the trap of trying to control a controller. We talked about in a previous lesson about fixing people. The reason that we want to fix a controller is because we don't like the way they're affecting us. So the thinking may be, if I can fix you, therefore, if I can fix you, it will help me. I want to fix you, not because I love you and I want to see you get better. I want to fix you because I don't like the way it's making me feel. And that's not really the best motivation for counseling. So what do you do around a controller? Now, when you're around a controlling person, there's always going to be pressure to comply. They will put pressure on you to comply with what they think is best and what they think is right. The challenge for people around them is not to enable. Enabling, every time you agree with the controller and you allow this, and you comply with the controller's the controller's wishes, you're actually doing a form of enablement. It is okay to say, I'm sorry you feel that way. It is okay to say, no thanks, I really don't think I want to do that. It's okay. Now the controller may get more frustrated. They may get more angry. They may get more pushy, more domineering, because controllers get very frustrated when their controlling seems not to be working. That's why they're constantly frustrated, because you see, controllers, even though they're trying to control people around them, it's actually an impossible task. And so controllers, with their righteous words and their righteous thinking, are constantly trying to affect the behaviors of others. They're trying to control other people. It is something they cannot do, but they are determined to do, so they live a life of frustration. Our part, if you're around a controller, is to realize what you're dealing with, and you just do not allow yourself to be manipulated. You do not allow yourself to be coerced. Now, when you stop and you say, you know what, I'm not going to allow myself to be manipulated by this controlling person in my life, you must be aware that the controller is going to get a little more frustrated. They will get more frustrated, but you know what? That's the consequence for their behavior. Enabling means taking away the responsibility and the consequence of another adult's behavior. Allowing them to suffer the consequence of their behavior is not a mean thing, it's actually a love thing. And it may be painful for them, but as we know through life, not all pain is harmful. So the next time you're around a controller, perhaps you should pray for them, which is always a good thing. Know what they're trying to do. Know that they're trying to avoid their own issues by fixing or controlling you, and realizing that you can be strong, you can set boundaries, and you can say no, and you'll live in more peace. You'll have more happiness, and the controller perhaps the light bulb may go off and say, you know what I'm doing is not working, and I need some help. This is Dr. Ray Self. God bless you.